So the Anthropocene is a geologic era. Humans have caused enough change on the planet now, particularly through our use of carbon fuels, but also just occupying the entire planet, that we really have created a geologic period, and we've named it after ourselves, Anthropocene, after anthros.
The Anthropocene cluster is basically a hypothesis at this point that before the Anthropocene era, the eras were all based on climate changes that man had nothing to do with. But at a certain point, man began to have a direct effect upon the environment.
So I teach a class called Biodiversity that is part of the biology curriculum as well as environmental studies. And this course fits really well within the cluster because it focuses on an impact of man, which is likely species extinction. And so one of the things that we talk about a lot in technological advancements of man is what's happening to species out there. And is man the most important species out there? And are they the most important for function?
The name of the class is Religion and Sustainable Agriculture. It's part of the Anthropocene cluster. One of the things that we do in this class is we consider how agriculture contributes to climate change by using a lot of fossil fuels and depleting the ozone layer. And so the students are gaining skills and learning about cultural traditions that grow food without using fossil fuels and without contributing to climate change.
So the cluster is concerned with 4 themes. When can we say the Anthropocene started and what is it, defining it, looking at exactly how humans have modified the planet, looking at how those modifications have impacted cultures and societies around the world, and then finally this question of what is it to be human. And I teach a class, Introduction to Cultural Anthropology, that kind of addresses all of those questions to some extent. We start with looking at human evolution and the impacts of that on the environment. We also look at contemporary human-environmental relationships in various parts of the world. And then when we talk about trying to understand what it is to be human in an anthropology course, that's kind of a natural question, I get to bring in some of this fun theory that really calls our conventional understandings of that into question.
So I'm teaching a class called Theater Sustainability, and this course is specifically related to the theater world and the waste that is incurred by normal theater production. Most theater productions are individual productions with a goal to keep a unique world on stage. This means that that unique world may not be usable for another world. There are things that have to be thrown away, things that can only be used one time. So the goal of our class is to teach students about strategies for using sustainable practices in theater. The final project of the course is to design a sustainable theater that will basically serve as an ecologically safe and pleasant theater environment.
People looking into the Anthropocene might think, why do I want to enter into a Paideia theme that is so gloomy, that is about the destruction of the planet? And I would talk back at them and say, well, we haven't destroyed the planet yet.
I don't want the Anthropocene to be synonymous with doom and gloom, because the reality is that humankind has an innate ability to invent. We have technology, and we can use that technology for good. We can use social conscience to make better decisions.
But at the same time, trying to get students to creatively think about how to reinvent the way we're living on the planet, so that the Anthropocene isn't a geologic era marked by tragedy and marked by some kind of cataclysmic end, but is there some way that we can turn the Anthropocene into an era that we can look back at and realize that this was a pivot, a turning point, where humans got our act together and figured out how we could live on the planet without destroying the planet.